all the peoples of Nigeria. What's that? May I continue or start all over?
Not yet. Hold on. I will introduce you. I will introduce you in a moment. Good evening, and welcome to tonight's landmark broadcast. My name is Tony Wisi. I'm your host for tonight. Tonight, Igbo Global Network engages with a highly respected scholar, professor of history, leader of Ilana Omodua, and leader of the Yoruba self-determination movement, Professor Banji Akintoye. Tonight, we engage with him in a robust conversation on the issue, on the position of the self-determination position of the Yoruba nation. And also, we engage with him tonight on his landmark interview, conversation with Dr. Abati of Arise Television. So for the purpose of those who are not familiar with our work, my name is Tony Wisi. I'm the chairman and founder of Igbo Global Network. Igbo Global Network is a human rights organization dedicated to promoting and defending the interests of the Igbo nation and all peace-loving people around the world. You can connect with us on www.igboglobalnetwork.com, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. On Facebook, we're Igbo Global Network. On YouTube, we're Igbo Global Network. And on Twitter, we're Igbo Global Net. Indeed, tonight I have two bright young people, leaders in our organization, who are going to be manning our social media platforms. We have the young lady, beautiful young lady, Ezeja, who's going to be manning our Facebook platform. So you can bring your questions and your comments for Professor, and she will take them up on behalf of Igbo Global Network. We also have on YouTube a dynamic young man, Raphael, also who will be manning our Twitter handle and our YouTube platform, taking your questions and your comments. In the studio tonight with me is our Vice Chairman and Legal Director of Igbo Global Network, Barrister Chukwumani Ekwe, who's a lawyer, a human rights scholar, a South African accredited mediator, and an internationally qualified mediator by International Mediator Institute in The Hague, Netherlands. Also in the studio with me tonight is an Igbo veteran, Mazi Uche Mbakwe, who has a lot of questions for Professor Akintoye and also Barrister Chukwumani Ekwe and myself. So he's also in the studio with us tonight. So welcome to a robust conversation tonight. You're in for a treat. April 28, 2024, mark it in your calendar. It's the day you have the rare privilege of listening to a lecture from Professor Emeritus Banji Akintoye, elder statesman, scholar, and academic. So tonight you have the opportunity to listen to him. In your interview with Dr. Abati, which we think he was exceedingly rude and ill-informed, and Dr. Abati, I hope he's listening to this conversation and we will give him a right of reply. But if he had done his homework, he would have known your pedigree and therefore prepared better. In your interview, we saw the extraordinary rebuke also from you, sir, to his rude comments. And so tonight we're going to visit that. And you went on to say to him in your rebuke, you said you're entitled to your opinion but your opinion is rigorously avoiding the truth. He rebuked to Dr. Abadi. He said, you are entitled to your opinion, but your opinion is rigorously avoids the truth. He also went on to say to him that the vision of self-determination for the Yoruba nation will come to pass and nobody can stop it. It is our right. And he went on to say, and we will do it peacefully. We will do it peacefully. So tonight, Professor is in the studio with us, and he's going to address the Nigerian people on self-determination as well as the position of the Yoruba nation. Professor Akintoye, sir, you have the platform.
Thank you very much. I say good evening to all Nigerians everywhere, to all the peoples of Nigeria, and to all the citizens of Nigeria. Whether you are in Nigeria or you have fled abroad to the diaspora, I say good evening to you all. The management of the affairs of a country is a very serious matter. It's a matter of the uttermost importance in the world. It is not a matter of tricks and plays and maneuverings, political maneuverings for personal or group advantage. In a country like Nigeria, it's a serious matter. Whoever wants to do anything that is serious about Nigeria must take into consideration the well-being of all Nigerian peoples and the well-being of all Nigerian citizens. So when we Yoruba started in 2019 to put our ideas together about seeking self-determination for the Yoruba people, one of the first things we agreed was that we will handle whatever we do in the struggle peacefully and in a law-abiding manner. Why? Because we did not want to disrupt the country's peace. And secondly, we did not want to cause any havoc to any of Nigeria's peoples. And so we have kept to that. I must say that one support for that came from very many of our Obas, Yoruba Obas. As you all know, Yoruba Obas are very influential among us Yoruba people. The first person who called me, the first Oba who called me was the Alaafin of Oyo. He called me to his palace in Oyo and he said to me, Baba Professor, I have been watching very, very closely what you and your crowds and crowds of young people are trying to do. And I want to say to you, thank you for trying to take our Yoruba nation out of this country of Nigeria. That's the will of God for our nation. We should never have been part of this country in the first instance. But now that you want to take us out, I pray that the gods of our land will give you all the support you need. There is one thing, however, a message that I have for you from the Yoruba people, from the gods that watch over the land of the Yoruba people, from Yoruba men, women, and children everywhere. And that is, you must do everything peacefully. I heard you when you were holding meetings and talking about the need to handle things peacefully. And I was very happy about it. I'm very happy to be talking to you about it. As long as you do things peacefully, you will succeed. Your people will be behind you. We may not be able to come and talk openly in your support, but our spirit will be supporting you. So we work peacefully. We don't cause any trouble. We're not fighting any government. We are asking that justice be done to peoples who have been subdued for more than a century in an unjust and unreasonable contraption called Nigeria. That's all. That's all. We want justice done. We Yoruba were a large population of today about 60 million in Nigeria. And we are being treated as if we are just one little tribe in the corner. General Obasanjo said a few weeks ago that the Yoruba people have become second-class citizens in Nigeria. We have fallen below second-class citizens. We used to be so proud and say, oh, you cannot see a Yoruba beggar in the streets. But now millions of Yoruba beggars are in the streets. We have been knocked down. Our farmers have been driven from their farms and have abandoned farming altogether. And many of them are running to Benin Republic, where they have relations, or to Togo, which means that the Yoruba nation is being doomed to food insecurity for years and years to come. Because the economy has been knocked down as a result of a whole lot of factors. People are saying, oh, restructuring alone cannot revive the economy of Nigeria. It cannot. Because the fundamental factors that destroy the economy in the first place are there, whether you restructure or you don't restructure. So, we are essentially a people with a great deal of ambition for prosperity being forced to live in poverty. That's the way we are. Our young people go to school, they graduate from their universities, they walk the streets for years without any jobs, and they flee abroad. And so our society is becoming poorer and poorer. Our capacity to conceive and implement development is being destroyed by the mass departure of these educated young people. We are going down the scale of life, and we cannot afford to continue. It's that simple. And people say, restructure. And I say, restructure, it's not a bad idea. Especially I have a lot of respect for our fathers in Afenifere who are talking restructure. I take it that they don't really understand the enormity of what is happening to the Yoruba nation. The Yoruba nation is breaking up, whether you like it or not. The Yoruba nation is breaking up in Nigeria. Today, there is an estimate that about 11 million Yoruba youths, educated Yoruba youths, most of them university graduates, have fled the country and are feeding the development of almost all the countries of the world. Such Yoruba people are found now in the smallest countries in the world. In Papua New Guinea. Some group called me from Papua New Guinea. I said, how did you get to Papua New Guinea, of all places? They said, we are many here, sir. Baba, we are many here. And that is it. Large numbers of our young people who want to run away but don't have the means of getting a visa are conceiving the very dangerous, very hazardous option of fleeing across the Sahara Desert, fleeing across the Mediterranean Sea to Southern Europe. And many of them are dying in the desert or in the sea. When you see almost regularly these days, large numbers of young people who have drowned, whose boat have capsized in the Mediterranean Sea and drowned. So there are many Yoruba boys and girls among them. Very many Yoruba boys and girls among them. A rescue boat once picked up the dead bodies of 20-something young women and went to deliver them to authorities in a village on the coast of Italy. When forensic tests were done, it was found that all of them, minus 2 or 3, were Yoruba, from the identity of on their cards, on their passports, and so on. Yeah. We are losing our people, we are losing our nation. And let nobody think that this is about politics, about political maneuvering, uh, about favor from any ruler. No, it's about the life and destiny of a whole nation of more than 60 million people. And not wait. We cannot wait. People say, why? But your brother is the president of Nigeria. Why don't you wait? Yes, our brother is president of Nigeria. We cannot wait. What is pushing us is not waiting. Our country, our people, our nation is perishing in Nigeria. We cannot wait. We have to bring the message to the world as quickly as possible and daily, if possible. And we are not fighting anybody. We are not fighting any authority. We interrelated with President Buhari about this. We wrote letters to him. We never fought him. He knew that we were not in a fighting, in a nasty fight at all. We are not fighting our own brother. No, we cannot fight our own brother. That's our blood. We cannot fight him. But we cannot keep quiet. What is happening to us does not permit our keeping quiet. We cannot keep quiet. The Yoruba nation is in danger, and we need to do something to get it out of that danger. That's the situation. That's the situation. We are proud of our people who have succeeded in Nigerian politics. President Tinubu and the many brilliant young people he has called out from among us Yoruba to come and help in the federal government. We are proud of you, but our pride in you does not demand us to keep quiet. Because if we keep quiet, our nation will vanish before our eyes. That's the situation. So, that's the Yoruba position. That's the position of those of us who are fighting for this self-determination of the Yoruba people. We will fight for it until we get it. And we are not going to be using any violence at all. I've said it. Our fathers, the Obas, the rulers of our land, they agreed with us completely, and they implore us all the time, please, Baba, no violence. So no violence, but definitely sophisticated, intellectually powerful struggle for our nation across the world. And the world is hearing us, and the world is beginning to listen to us. And we are going to win. That's our situation. What more do I need to say?
You said it all.
We are working under enormous pressure. Yeah. We are working under enormous pressure. And so we cannot stop. Somebody was trying to insinuate that the young woman who gathered some people and did a stupid criminal thing in Ibadan, that we have some hand in that. We didn't know he was planning a thing like that. We don't know why she would do that, because it's so obviously criminal. You say you are taking the government of the Yoruba people, the Yoruba part of Nigeria, from Nigeria, and you send some young men to carry some weapons to go to Ibadan. This is the government of the Yoruba people in Ibadan. Good God. Where did you hear that from? You worked with us for some time before you hived away, before you moved away. But our conclusion has been that some people are using you against us. They want you to cause trouble so that we could catch some of it. You have caused the trouble and we have not caught any of it. It's your trouble, your business entirely. And we are sorry for you, but we cannot help you. So that is it. Our Yoruba self-determination struggle will go on peacefully, and it will go on to victory. Nothing can stop it. That is it, ladies and gentlemen, Nigerians and all. I wish all the other Nigerian peoples the strength, the courage for them to do what we are doing. But we cannot command you to do that. We cannot even advise you publicly. We just say we pray for you. That's all. God be with you all. I thank you and I welcome you. But one thing I must say, what we are doing is entirely legal. The self-determination struggle is a totally legal thing. You might say, oh, it didn't exist at the time of the Civil War in 1960s and 70s. Yes, it didn't exist, but now it exists. Because of the various examples of nationalities wanting to separate from the existing country. The international community took action, took cognizance and took action. And in 2007, a United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples was passed by the United Nations. And Nigeria was one of the signatories to it. My friend, Dr. Abbas, was asking me, when was it domesticated? I said, what do you mean by domestication? Domestication means that it was brought to Nigeria and made part of the laws of Nigeria. And it was. The president of Nigeria brought it to Nigeria, sent it to the Nigerian National Assembly as a proposal for a law. The Nigerian National Assembly approved it, sent it back to the president signed it. That makes it part of the laws of Nigeria. That is domestication. That's how to domesticate. The same thing with the Africa Charter of Human and People's Rights. Exactly the same thing happened. It was passed in Addis Ababa. The government of Nigeria was part of the decision. They brought it home, and the president sent it to the National Assembly. The National Assembly accepted it and sent it back to the president for his signature, and he signed it into law. That is domestication. That's making an internationally created decision part of the laws of Nigeria. That's the meaning of domestication. And so those of us who are asking for self-determination, we're asking for self-determination on the basis of laws that exist in the books of Nigeria. We are not doing anything illegal. We are not doing anything illegal. Our right to seek self-determination, to seek departure from Nigeria in order to have a separate country of our own is established by international law and by the laws of Nigeria. Every nation in the world has, every indigenous nation has the right, that's, I'm quoting, has the right of self-determination. By virtue of that right, they will determine their own government, their own institutions, their own economic system and everything. That means they will be an independent country in the world, a sovereign country. That is it. Yeah, and the African Charter says exactly the same thing. So we are operating under the laws. We are not afraid, therefore. It's government's weapons, government's punishment are for the criminal, for those who break the law. We will not break the law, so we will not come under any punishment. But we will take our country from Nigeria. We will strengthen our argument. God will guide us and strengthen our mind. And we will be able to strengthen our argument further and further and further until the dam breaks and we can go away. And we are hoping that it is going to be soon. We are not waiting for many years. No, we want our country now. We can't wait and watch our country, our nation break up. Thank you, my people, peoples of Nigeria. Thank you all. God be with you. God bless you. We are the unfortunate ones in this world. In 1914, without any consultation with us, without any consultation with any of our rulers, the British officials ruling the North and the British officials ruling the South, the two protectorates, came together and decided to amalgamate their two protectorates. They did not amalgamate us. We were not part of the amalgamation. And part of what we are going to be looking after very soon is a challenge of the whole idea of amalgamation in the international courts. Yeah. How can somebody to something to which we did not contribute at all, how can it bind us for the rest of time? It's against all ideas of human justice. The Sultan of Sokoto was invited to the ceremony at the amalgamation. The Alaafin of Oyo was invited. One ruler from the Ijaw people was invited. There was not even an Igbo man or ruler. Nobody from it. And then one or two individuals who are important in the affairs of Lagos, and so on. And they were there, they saw it, but they were not signatories. Nobody ever asked them to come and sign anything, and they didn't sign anything. And yet, people are saying that that's what binds our people for the rest of time. It is not going to happen. We're going to fight it until we shred it out, until we destroy it. That's something. And so people who are fighting for self-determination, that's why one of the places to strike at. We have evidence that in 1959, when the pre-independence election was held, the British took steps to rig it for the North. The persons who are responsible for rigging it have spoken out in their memoirs, which copy we have. Yeah. We are going to be taking such things to international courts for a decision. We are going to take the whole idea that in 1950s we sat down at home in London and so on and wrote a basic agreement for a federation of Nigeria. Some boys in the army came and blew it out in one single night and held power from 1966 almost continuously, with the exception of the 4 years of the Shagari presidency in 1979 to 83. The military held the country. Are we still bound by what they did? Then they ended up in 1999 and wrote the constitution and said that we Nigerian people wrote it. We the people. Whereas it was written by one general and his friends, and he decreed it into law. There is a lot of illegalities binding our lives. Now we are going to be going after them seriously. We are going to be going after them one by one and push ourselves out of this thing called Nigeria. So that's our situation. We are under pressure. We don't have the luxury of waiting. We don't. And we are going to win. And we are forgetting things that our own men who have occupied positions in Nigeria have said about this country called Nigeria. Balewa, who was prime minister, Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, who was prime minister before and after independence, said, this thing called Nigerian unity is British intention for Nigeria. Nigerian peoples are different in culture in every way, and they show no desire or sign of wanting to unite. On another occasion in 1964, during a visit to Ibadan, he said, one of the insoluble problems of the Nigerian situation is that the three largest black nations on earth are all pushed into this one single country called Nigeria. Yeah, in 1964. That the three largest nationalities in black Africa are all pushed together into one country. Imagine the absurdity. General Yakubu Gawan, after being president for about 3 or 4 months, said, when all factors have been taken into consideration, be it political or economic or cultural or social, the truth remains that the basis for Nigeria's unity is not there. That was after he had been president of Nigeria, military president of Nigeria for 4 months or so. That was November or so, 1966. When all factors have been taken into consideration, be it political, cultural, religious, whatever, the truth remains that the basis for Nigeria's unity is not there. President Leopold Sedar Senghor of Senegal once said, for Africa to develop, Nigeria must be dissolved. People know these things from the beginning. Our own father, Obafemi Awolowo, said, Nigeria is just a mere geographical expression. There are no Nigerians in the way you have British or English or Scots or Russian or Germans. No, there are none. We are called Nigerians only because we are in that territory. That's all. There is nothing to hold. People who say, oh, Nigeria, we must make sure Nigeria works and so on. They don't know what they're talking about. What make what work? Something that was not put together on the basis of truth from the beginning, and that has been shaken from the beginning. You say you want to make it work. Work how? How? In the in Odufa, in Oshetura, in Odufa, as translated by one of our philosophers, Professor, forgive me, his name just escaped me. He said his translation is as follows. Oshetura says, what is truth? I say, what is truth? Onomila says, truth is the power that God put in the world to order the world. Oshetura says, what is truth? I say, what is truth? Onomila says, truth is an emanation from the person of God himself to the world. It keeps the world in order. Whoever, whatever knocks itself against the truth will perish. Whoever or whatever knocks himself or itself against truth will perish. Nigeria is against truth and it is going to vanish. And there is no particular disaster in having a country break up. There is no disaster. The people are there, they will go and form their new country and they will prosper from there. Countries have been dissolving since the beginning of time. In modern times, many countries have dissolved. The Republic of Ireland separated from Britain in 1921. Singapore separated from Malaysia in 1965. The 14 different nationalities in the Soviet Union separated in 1990 to 91 into 14 separate countries. Peacefully. So there is it's not a disaster that the country of many people breaks up into different countries. It's no disaster. There is nothing to lament in it. All that is needed is that we do it peacefully and that we determine that we are going to be friendly. We will not be hostile to one another, that will be friendly neighbors, peaceful borders, mutually helpful neighbors. And that's it. We must not wait until we do it by violence. Because countries that break up by violence tend to be dogged by violence thereafter. So we mustn't wait until we do it by violence. We must learn to do it peacefully. Thank you. I wish I had the time to just go on and on and on. But I know that you want to ask me questions. And many of the things that I have left out unsaid, I know you want to ask questions about. So I will take the questions now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. I promised the audience, I promised Nigerians that they will have a treat. They were going to receive a treat today. And my goodness, this has been a treat for Nigerians and the peoples of the world. This has been a treat. Where do we start from? We're definitely going to continue this conversation, sir. We're going to continue this conversation, even as you yourself have said, because we need to continue this conversation so that our people may have a deep understanding. But I want to go back to your landmark outing with Dr. Abati, where, like we said, he was exceedingly rude and ill-informed, and we couldn't figure out whose mouthpiece he was, whether he was speaking for himself or speaking for Arise Television or speaking for the Nigerian government or indeed foreign sponsors. And so we had to pay attention to the question. And he said, do you think President Tinubu will sit down with a bunch of Yoruba people seeking to divide Nigeria under his watch? And then he went on to say that Section 2 of Nigerian Constitution says that Nigeria is indivisible and indissoluble. He said this authoritatively, as if he were there or as if he has reviewed the Constitution. And then, just like you said, we also took a look at what that Constitution says, what that document says. The preamble says that we, the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, having firmly and solemnly resolved to live in unity, we the people resolved to live in unity and harmony as one indivisible and indissoluble sovereign nation under God, dedicated to the promotion of inter-African solidarity, world peace and international cooperation and understanding, and to provide for a constitution for the purpose of promoting the good government and welfare of all persons in our country on the principles of freedom, equality, and justice, and for the purpose of consolidating the unity of our people, do hereby make, enact, and give to ourselves the following Constitution. And so the question for Dr. Abati is, when, sir, did Nigerians do that? When did we, the people, in a conference, in a referendum, in a plebiscite, when did we sit to do that? There is a school of thought which says that that constitution is a fraudulent document.
This fraud,
And
it says.
Global Network, we take the position.
Yes.
Exactly. And we, for Igbo Global Network, we take the position that we have not made a constitution. We are yet to have a conversation. And so when Dr. Baptiste said authoritatively, I mean, it was full of vexation for me. When he said authoritatively that the Constitution of Nigeria says that the nation of Nigeria, that the country, Nigeria is not a nation. Nigeria is 300 nations, banked together by force at the threat of a gun. And when he went on to say authoritatively that Section 2 says that Nigeria is indivisible and indissoluble, it left me wondering on whose behalf was he speaking, and what did he mean by that, Prof?
Well, thank you very much for the details that you have provided. Thank you very much. But there is something that we have to live with, that we have to accept. Every country in the world regards itself as indissoluble. Every country on earth describes itself, sees itself as indissoluble. Yeah. And yet countries are dissolving all day. It's a question of people having the good sense to recognize that this country needs to break up in the interest of humanity. Yeah, that's what President Seda Senghor meant in the 1960s when he said, for Africa to develop, Nigeria must dissolve. That's the truth of the matter. Nigeria has become a block in the way to African development because it's holding enormous resources that are no longer dynamic, that are smothered in corruption and inefficiency. The over-centralization of power and resource control and development management have destroyed development in the states and local governments and removed them as factors of development among us. So the problem of Nigeria can only be solved by a friendly, peaceful action by the peoples of Nigeria, led by their rulers, to dissolve Nigeria, not to restructure. No. And the Soviet Constitution spoke of the Soviet Union as one indissoluble union. In 1991, the peoples of the Soviet Union, the leaders, the rulers of the Soviet Union, led by Mikhail Gorbachev, accepted that the end had come for this great country. And so they sat down and divided it up into 14 different countries. And almost all the 14 different countries are doing well in the world today. There is no disaster in breaking up a country. People think that breaking up a country is like killing a person. No. No, not at all. It's a benevolent, beneficent way of resolving insoluble problems. Nigeria's problems are insoluble already. And the way to handle it is that we Nigerians would peacefully agree to solve it in the only sensible way possible. That is all. That is all. Don't let any Nigerian politician tell us, you want to break up Ghana. Like, what is there? We want to break up our country, and so you are saying something wrong. No. If I say I want my country to be broken up so that there will be peace and unity and harmony and friendship again among our people, what's wrong with that? What is wrong with that? So that is it. We have a task to do with Nigerians, and we have to do it quickly. We need to do it quickly. We need to do that task quickly in the interest of humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I want to go reference a conversation you had with Channels Television. I think it was Laja Akintoye Ale who was conducting this interview. And in that interview, you went on to say that the Yoruba nation is living like slaves in Nigeria. That was a statement that you made. And earlier on today, you said that President Olusegun Obasanjo also said that the Yorubas are living like second-class citizens in Nigeria. I mean, what do you mean by that, Prof?
Yeah, well, in the 1960s, when we were talking, when our father Awolowo was representing us, and Dr. Azikwe was representing the East, and Sir Ahmadu Bello was representing the North, that was a great deal of hope. I was young then. I was a student, an undergraduate in a university. We were very proud of our country. We were sure that Nigeria will be the breaker of the disaster of Africa and will lead Africa to the highest mountains. I used to represent Nigeria in conference after conference of students across Africa and the rest of the world. And everywhere we went, we used to brag, we used to beat our chest. Our country is coming, we will soon be independent. And then the world will see. Yeah. Professor Oluwasami, then Professor of Agricultural Economics in Ibadan, and I, as a student, went to represent Nigeria in the World University Conference in Munich, in Germany. And the President Adenauer came there, and the two of us stood side by side, wearing our, very cheap agbada, something that's all a student can afford. And he came to us, he said, Nigeria, you are welcome to my country. You do know, of course, that your country is the great country that the rest of the world is looking for, waiting for in Africa. That is it. So we went into that arrangement believing that it will lead to prosperity, it will lead to power, it will lead to beauty. But now the Yoruba people are beggars in the streets. Most Yoruba adults now don't have their children anywhere near them. Their children are in different parts of the world. When there was some fire in Hawaii, some Yoruba boys were there and girls were there. There are Yoruba boys and girls in places like Nepal, the highest country in the world, on the side of Mount Everest. There is a little country called Tonga in the Pacific Ocean. There are some Yoruba people. It is a small country, a few thousands of people ruled by a queen. There are some Yoruba boys and girls there. we have been driven away and scattered around the world by poverty, by unemployment, by hardship. Yeah. And so we are no longer the Yoruba nation who entered it. We are no longer the Yoruba nation that entered into the agreement in the 1950s. We are no longer so. We are now a subdued, poor, wretched nation in Nigeria. But we cannot continue. And this situation is getting worse and worse for us. In the past 8 years, the Fulani have driven our farmers off their land, and the farmers have given up agriculture. And now they are living in towns and villages as part of the unemployed, or running away to the Republic of Togo, to their relatives who are there. Yeah, we are living like slaves. One German professor, Professor Ulibaya, came to Nigeria in 1951 and worked in Nigeria in 1974. He wrote in a book later that all those years he never saw a Yoruba beggar. He never even saw a Yoruba man who was insane, abandoned by his people in the streets. He lived in Lagos, he lived in Ibadan, he lived in Abeokuta, in Oshogbo, he lived in Ife. And he said, I never saw a Yoruba man begging in the streets. I didn't even see a Yoruba man who was insane, abandoned by his people in the streets. Then he went away in 1974. And sometime in 1986, he was coming back from a conference in Asia, and he thought, oh, okay, he had just married a young wife, and he wanted to bring his wife to come and see the country where he used to live. And they came out and lodged in a hotel in Lagos, Federal Palace Hotel. He said the next morning, about the shock of my life, I saw Yoruba women begging in front of this hotel. And I went back and picked up my diary and wrote in it, the life of the Yoruba nation has crumbled. That's 1986. This is 2004. If the life of the Yoruba nation had crumbled by 1986, it has now totally blown away with the wind. There's nothing left.
It's interesting that
Yoruba people are in the streets in their millions begging.
It's interesting that you say that, Prof, because we at Igbo Global Network actually hold the position that it is not only the Yoruba people that are slaves in Nigeria. We hold the position that all Nigerians.
I agree with you, my brother. I just, so I would not be accused of asking other people to do anything. So I keep talking about the Yoruba.
Yes, I understand. I fully understand. I just want to give you our position that we take the position that all Nigerians are slaves, and the politicians are the violent process. And but it's a good time for me to bring in Dr. Barrister Chukwuma, who's our legal director, who wrote the maxim of the slave plantation. We see Nigeria as a slave plantation after the order of Willie Lynch, and that all of us are captive within the slave plantation called Nigeria, and the politicians are the violent proxies, while the rest of Nigerians, be it Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, Ido, or etc., are slaves within it. But Barrister Chukwuma, what is your response to that? Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Audio. Can't hear you.
From every direction. It used to be said.
Can you
It
hear me
used to
now?
be said that in Nigeria,
Yeah.
in Nigeria,
Hold on, sir. Hold on. Prof, hold on, sir. Hold on, sir. Barrister Chukwuma, can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
No.
You need to speak up. You need to speak up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof, for, I can say, for your illuminating lectures.
Volume.
I don't know.
You might need to raise your voice.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Better.
Can you hear me now? Can everyone hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay. I say once more, thank you, Prof, for your I can say that thought out lectures this evening, especially the way you touched on very important issues that is confronting not only Yoruba people, but also every other member of the human community. So, but let me just say that I align with you fully, as the convener said, concerning the situation of the Yorubas and other ethnic nations in Nigeria, especially with regards to their condition that can be equated with that of slavery. Because our position remains that it is not the present situation that made them to be equivalent to slaves. I'm saying it because the situation of today is a foreseeable outcome of the amalgamation, because the amalgamation was done to put them in a perpetual slavery situation. We can understand it more when we look at the template of Willie Leach. And why we are using the template of Willie Leach is that it is very, very important, especially for Nigeria, even for other neighboring countries. Because Willie Leach articulated that if you want to control the slaves and for many years to serve for the interests of the master, you must mix slaves from different ethnic nations, from different languages together inside the one plantation and use the worst among them to control others. So at the inception of Nigeria, even in 1914, there are reasons for us to believe that that template was used right from the Berlin Conference to create all the many countries in Africa, including Nigeria. And the outcome is what we are grappling with today. So when you say that the Yorubas are living like slaves, I agree with you. But permit me to add that they are living like slaves, just like Igbos are living like slaves, Igalas are living like slaves, TVs are living like slaves, Benis are living like slaves, because the intention to bring them together was to bring a slavery outcome. And it is for this reason that I see the right to self-determination not as an act of breaking a country, but as a remedial action to restore the dignity and the human rights of the people that we are trapped. Hello?
Yes, you are right. To restore the dignity of man.
To restore the dignity of the humanity of those people who were trapped inside the slave plantation. so that they can continue to live in perpetual conflict with one another, commit genocide against one another, commit infanticide against one another. And in the midst of the chaos, the slave masters will be using some violent proxies to be extracting the resources, or be using the entity as a captive market for their own goods. So to restore the Yorubas or restore the Igbos, that is why the right to self-determination was provided in many international instruments. And as you spoke to Dr. Ruben Abati, you mentioned the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and you mentioned the domestication of the rights of indigenous people. But I want to add that the situation in Nigeria is not only confined to these two instruments, because the right to self-determination emanated from what happened from the Nuremberg trial after the Second World War. The jurisprudence that emanated from the Nuremberg trial entrenched what some people call a normative universe. A universe where a state cannot just treat some part of its citizens the way they feel like. The way the Nazi Germany treated some part of its citizens, being the Jewish citizen of Germany. So it is not just about Nigerian constitution that can take away the rights of people to self-determination. Because the right of people to self-determination is an inalienable right. That means that it has been there even before the constitution. So the constitution, a man-made constitution, cannot take away the right that has been existing in the life of human beings. So that is one of the points that I want to bring to the fore in this our conversation.
Right.
Because every time any group, any ethnic nation want to mention their right to self-determination, they will bring up the Nigerian constitution is indissoluble, is indefeasible. But that is not the correct position. The correct position is that all the ethnic nationality, they have their inalienable right to self-determination, and that is to remedy the forceful amalgamation into Nigeria. Because without remedying the forceful amalgamation into Nigeria, as you said, no ethnic nation can flourish in Nigeria. Yoruba people will continue to increase as beggars. Some Igbo people are now becoming beggars. Some Bini people are now becoming beggars, because all those things are rooted to the deprivation of right to self-determination. The Fulanis, as you said, are now going into people's farm, killing people, raping women, and changing demographic composition. And there's nothing, the government is not doing anything about that. And the judicial system cannot hold them to account, because the same constitution, the same imposed framework is connected to how the judicial system and how the entire justice system is operating in Nigeria. So when a system is like that, how can the people flourish? The people can only flourish if they exercise their remedy of the right to self-determination. And it was because of this type of situation in Nigeria that happened in Yugoslavia. All of us we saw in Yugoslavia. Nobody said that Yugoslavia is indissoluble. Nobody said that Yugoslavia is indivisible. When they are busy killing people in Sarajevo, they cannot be killing people and destroying the future of people, and they are saying those people must stay together. Bosnia came out of Yugoslavia. Croatia came out of Yugoslavia. Even Kosovo, that was a province of Serbia, came out from Serbia. So when people say that Igbo people cannot accept their right to self-determination, I don't know what they're trying to say. Are they saying that Igbo people or Yoruba people, they must continue to be the slaves of those who put the slave plantation together? It cannot be so. Because if they're saying that, that means that what Hitler did in Germany can be justified. Anybody that say that Igbo people, Yoruba people, Igala people, TV people, or all other ethnic nations must remain in Nigeria in the midst of dehumanization, the person is trying to justify what Hitler did to the Jews. And as Albert continued to say, and some journalists continue to say, nobody, I've never seen any Nigerian politician, even any Nigerian leader, that can give us valid reason why we should be together. As you rightly said right now, that the former Prime Minister of Senegal said, for Africa to move forward, Nigeria must be broken. And you say that the greatest step is to bring three powerful or three largest ethnic nations together in one country. You say that the former Prime Minister of Nigeria, Tafawa Balewa, said that. All those things are the pointer to the realization that Nigeria was put together as a continuation of the of slave plantation. The difference might be that during the era of transatlantic slavery, they were taking the slaves away to the farmlands, to the plantation, because of the agricultural revolution. But when it changed to industrial revolution, where they wanted to extract the mineral resources, they have to create another system of slave plantation outside their own shore, where they have to subdue the people and continue to put them in a situation where they will be extracting the resources. This is what Nigeria represents. Because Nigeria can never be a vehicle of human advancement. And it is for us to either exercise our remedy of right to self-determination. It's not separation, it's not breakup. If you don't exercise our right to self-determination, it is tied to our socioeconomic rights. We cannot flourish. And let me speak as an Igbo man. The Igbo people cannot even have their own critical economic infrastructures, because all of them, they are in an exclusive list. And the constitution was imposed on them. And the United Nations guideline and Secretary General guideline on constitutional making is very, very clear. It is tied to Article 1 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and Article 1 of the International Covenant on Socioeconomic and Cultural Rights. But the Nigeria Constitution did not even follow those guidelines, because it was meant to achieve a particular purpose, to continue to put people down. So in such a situation, there's no difference between those who are trapped in Nigeria and those who are in slave plantation. And I want to add something I want to add what one United States jurist said. He said that any group of people or any ethnic nation that are deprived of their right to self-determination, they are equivalent to slavery or incident of it or badge of it. It was said by Seth Davis in his analysis of the 13th Amendment of the United States Constitution. So unless if the Nigeria government or the Nigeria people or other Africans come together to create the enabling environment for people to exercise their right to self-determination, there can never be any sort of advancement of humanity in Nigeria. And this challenge is not only affecting Nigeria, as the former president of Senegal said, it is now affecting many other African countries. because a people cannot flourish if there cannot be enabling environment for each ethnic nations to express their intuitive intelligence, their creative ability, their innovative ability, so that we can learn from each other. What we are having, the situation we are having in Nigeria is a situation where all the different ethnic nations are behaving like crabs inside one bucket. Because the same way it's happening inside the slave plantation. Whenever one ethnic nation wants to come up, another crab will drag the other one down, so that all of us can be inside this bucket. So this is why this is the reason we of the Igbo Global Network are standing up to say that let other ethnic nations, we are not preaching anybody, we are not trying to incite anybody, because this is a right. And I'm very, 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 very happy today for you to have helped us to explain to other Nigerians that every ethnic nation, irrespective of their numerical strength, have a right to self-determination. Irrespective of their numerical strength. It's not only for Yoruba people, it's not only for Igbo people. And the earlier we come together to realize that we have to remedy what the British or what the white supremacists, the situation the white supremacists and the British created for us, that we have to remedy it in order for us to move forward. That will be the starting point of our own liberation. So before I end my submission, I want to say that I stand firmly with you that Nigeria is a slave plantation, and there can be no moving forward unless if the Nigeria government or the Nigeria civil society or any ethnic nation in Nigeria realize that they have to take steps to take themselves out of the slave plantation, as it is not for the territory to determine the destiny of the people, but it is for the people to determine the destiny of the territory. That was what George Gillard said in the Western Sahara opinion. So it is now right time for all ethnic nations in Nigeria to stand up and determine the destiny of the slave plantation where they are confined, and to stand up and say that they are not objects that belong to either Britain or anybody. That is the only way forward that is going to save us from this situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my brother. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you, Barrister. Thank you, Daddy, so much. I want to go to social media. We promised them in social media that they can ask you questions, Prof. I made a promise with that they can ask you questions. So I want to go to Raphael, who's managing our Twitter and YouTube, and Ezeja, who's managing our Facebook. Raphael, are you there?
Yeah,
I can't hear you, Raphael.
Everyone. I'm up
Okay,
and running.
good. What is going on, Raphael? Talk to me, talk to Prof. What is going on YouTube and Twitter?
Very active, and there are many messages already. Many questions are already up here. Many people are showing concern, and there are many questions that have been asked so far. So, by your permission, sir, whenever it's time, I can begin to read out those questions.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's take one or two questions for Prof.
Okay, so looking at the first question here by an indigene of the Igbo nation, he is asking if Nigeria is a slave plantation, who are the slave masters? And if the slave masters are the whites or the British, they are all gone. What then is the issue holding the dissolution? So did you get the question?
Yeah, I get that. If Nigeria is a slave plantation and the British are gone, who then is holding Nigerians together? So that's what I heard you.
I don't think any Nigerian has any difficulty in answering that. The British were going to leave, and according to the memoir of one of the leading British officials in Lagos at the time, in 1959, they said they were going to leave Nigeria in the hands of a friendly people by which they mean the Fulani. And the qualifications of the Fulani were many for being called friendly people. One, they are not indigenous of the country. So they really don't have much power against the British neo-colonial forces when they come running. Secondly, the Fulani were the least educated people in Nigeria and the least desirous of education. So those are the things that gave them the qualification of a friendly people, people who have no basis of their own, who, if we, the British, make them friends, they will always be friendly to us. They are not like the Hausa or the Yoruba or the Igbo, who are the indigenes in the place, who can wake up one morning and say, no, we are not free enough here, and begin to start trouble. The Fulani cannot do that because they have no basis in the land. And so the British chose them as the friendly people, quote unquote, friendly people, and rigged the elections, rigged the censuses, manipulated the structure of the regions and everything, and gave them the power over Nigeria. When they were not going to be able to make it and have enough representatives in the parliament to be a government, they twisted some southern politicians and bribed others to work with them. And when it was over, and they were looking, and it looked as if these Southerners, especially this man called Awolowo, who rode in the air and so on, and the campaign 1959, is still there. Will the Fulani be able to withstand them in 1964? And the answer is no. So, all right, so the answer is destroy the Western region, destroy the Chief Awolowo of the Western region. Hence, the plot of 1962 that destroyed the Western region. So we know who the slaves are and who the slaves of the bedchamber are. We know the British are deriving such enormous wealth from Nigeria. Most people may not know that. I was in a lecture once where a young man asked, what are the things that the British are getting from all this? And somebody answered him, what about the oil? Do you know that not all the oil that is mined in Nigeria is credited to Nigeria? That a lot of it is credited to the North Sea? The friendly people know the truth, but they will protect the truth in order to protect themselves. If it had been the Hausa or Yoruba or Igbo or Tiv or something, they might reach a point at which they say, no, this is going too far. But with the Fulani, it can never go too far, no matter what the British are stealing from Nigeria, can never go too far. Because they need the British to be able to hold their position. That's the situation. That's the answer to who are the slave masters. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Do you have another question, Raphael?
Yes, sir. There's another question here. and this person is asking specifically, he's saying it is true that that migration and dispersion is a vital factor for all living organisms. How then is the migration of people from the West a criterion for the dissolution of people in the West, whereas we could see that people from the East are more tortured and maltreated than people from the West?
So it's essentially is trying to is seeking for justification for the suffering of the Yoruba people. That's what he seems to be seeking. So,
Yeah, the focus from the beginning was, oh, the South, yeah, but particularly the Yoruba.
yeah.
And so a lot of the policies that were woven after independence were woven around the Southwest. And that led to disruption of the Southwest until young people blew up and began to defend their country in 1965, which finally led to the young men in the military to intervene. Yeah, the West has suffered a lot. I'm not saying that the rest of the South has not suffered, but the things that touch the West, that matter to the West, have been destroyed a lot. For instance, the West invested more in education than the rest of Nigeria. But since independence, that the quality of the education has been gradually destroyed. It used to be the statistics in the world in the 1960s, 70s, that out of school children were few in Yoruba land and in Igbo land, and very many in the north. Out of school children. But today there is no difference anymore. Out of school children are as many in the West today as they are in the North. Because the parents can no longer send their children. A lot of parents, you ask them, why is Kunle not going to school? Say, I don't know. He might be kidnapped by the Fulani on the way to school or back from school. 2 months ago, a school bus carrying 14 children was kidnapped in Ekiti State, taken into the bush, and they were in the bush for more than 2 weeks. As the Fulani were demanding 200 million ransom for their release. So we say, oh, educated men and women are running away, not only them. I lived in America until 2015, and I can tell you that almost daily, some Yoruba person living in a state or not far away will call me and say, I've gone home and brought my father and mother back here. And they know you, sir. So I will be glad if you can come and visit them. So Yoruba people are not only educated people are not only running away, they are coming back to take their parents to run away with them. The Yoruba nation is breaking up. That is the situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Raphael. I want to go to Mazio Uchembakwe. I think I hear you have a few questions for Prof. Let's just take 1 or 2 questions if you can. And time is getting on. I don't think we'll finish this conversation today. Mazimako, you have questions for Professor Akintoye?
Yeah, quickly, let me start by thanking our beloved professor.
Thank you.
I mean, my ears and mouth is full. I don't, in fact, I was trying to take note, but I found out that you have so much to offer. In fact, we could sit all day listening to you and soaking in stuff from you. You know, for those of us who are not historians, I mean, this is an opportunity for us to, you know, gather something very important from you. Thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity to be here today to maybe express some of my things going on in me that I have not been able to resolve in terms of questions. But there's so much questions revolving in my ears and mind that I may not have time to throw them out. But I want to go straight to the one that really matters most to me. It's not more of the problem. I mean, you've said it all. We know our problem, we know where it started, and we know how it has gotten us to where we are. But what's most important to me is, what is the solution? What is the solution to all these conundrum we find ourselves in? So, with that in mind, I want to ask this. You see, you touched based on management of a country being very crucial, very important, the management of a country. You also talked about peaceful agitation, you know, for Yoruba or Igbo self-determination is our inalienable right. You also talked about, you know, us working under a very enormous pressure because of the powers that be. And then also when I had to say that, you know, the creation of this concoction called Nigeria is very, very illegal. It's based on illegal parameters. So the question goes this way. See, I've always believed that you cannot negotiate peace with somebody, with a captor whose interest is to benefit or thrive in your pains. That is, he thrives because you are in pain. So for you to try to negotiate with him for peace peacefully, it's going to be very, very difficult. So you are a proponent of a peaceful negotiation, agitation. So how do you marry this together? And this question goes to both you and our barrister, Pastor Eniko. Thank you.
Thank you, Mazimako. Professor Akintoye.
Well, the answer is obvious, although it's not easy to come to a grab. Already, it is becoming clear it's not only the Yoruba and Igbo who want to leave Nigeria. The Ijaw people want to. 2 days ago, they wrote a letter. Some Hausa leaders are already saying the same thing. They are not Fulani, but Hausa, because Hausa people are under the hammer from the Fulani marauders. And they too are now saying that they want their own country, so that they could go, according to some of the statements that I have read, so that they could go and join their brethren in Niger Republic. Niger, by the way, is more than 50% Hausa. The Hausa used to be the largest single ethnic group north of the Niger before the British came and the French, and they split them into two. Part in Nigeria, part in Niger Republic. Now, some Hausa leaders are saying okay, we've seen enough. We want to leave Nigeria and go and join our brethren in Niger Republic. We don't know how many more people how many more peoples will come forward. But seriously, if 2 or 3 or 4 peoples can come together and forget all this pettiness that Nigeria has introduced among us, stop looking down on the Hausa, they are your brethren. The white, our brothers before the British came. The Yoruba and the Hausa were very, very close. So stop looking down at them because they don't deserve to be treated like that. And so we take them seriously. And the Yoruba and the Igbo and the Hausa and the Ijaw, the 4 largest ethnic groups in the country, the Ijaw are the 4th largest nation in Nigeria. If those 4 large nations, these 4 largest nations, would come together and responsibly, I repeat, responsibly, make a request that they would take before the world, the United Nations, to say, we 4 countries, we 4 peoples, we are the largest peoples in that country. We have seen enough. We wish to depart. It will shake the world. I am sure that will shake the world. And it may be the breaking point. Some breaking point has to come. How do we contrive that breaking point? Other people will have other suggestions. That's one suggestion that I have put. 4 largest countries, 4 largest nationalities come together and say, we want to speak together for a change. Each of us wants to live, and we want to live peacefully. It could make a huge difference. That's my thinking. Thank you.
Can I do a follow-up?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. My question is, who are United Nations? Second question. Yes. Second question, if you know to that, appended to that. Do we have the enabling environment to do this? Follow your idea peacefully. Do we have the enabling environment? Because we have a slave master, we're in a slave plantation. We own by a slave master. And you are going to the slave master to present your problem for solution. United Nations. Who are United Nations?
No, it is you who will take your problem together to the United Nations.
Who are United Nations?
Well,
they are our slave masters.
There are people there who will stand up for you.
Can I chime in?
There are the slave masters for sure, but there are other people who will stand up for you there. It is not bleak. The United Nations is not totally bleak.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Our time is well spent. Our time is well spent. I did promise Nigerians a treat. I'm sure they have got more than a treat today. And we're grateful to Professor Akintoye for making today possible for being with us today. I'm going to go to Barrister for 2 minutes to do a closing remark so that Prof can get a glass of water. And then we're going to come back to Prof to give us his closing remark. And then we're going to end the broadcast. I'm sure this conversation is going to continue. My people keep messaging me. Raphael is there signaling to me. Lots and lots of questions on social media. Ezija is there signaling to me. Lots of questions on social media. People are very excited about what they've heard today. I'm sure their ears are tingling because they never heard this kind of stuff before. But I'm not surprised because I knew this was going to happen. So at the appropriate time, we will continue this conversation with Professor Banji Akintoye. But for now, I will go to my brother, my colleague, Barrister Chukuma Anyekwe to give his closing remark. And then finally, Prof will give his closing remark. And then we're going to end the broadcast. And we'll get end the broadcast. So, Barrister Chukuma, over to you, sir. 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Convener. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Veteran. Thank you, everyone. Okay, I wanted to say something before, but now let me just say it as part of my closing remark. One, let me make a quick one. The quick one is this: we should always try to understand that Africans should not be reinforcing their own dehumanization. And the ethnic nations that are trapped into Nigeria, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
The ethnic nations that are trapped into Nigeria, be it Yoruba, Igbo, Igala, TV, anyone, we should not be taking steps that will be reinforcing our own dehumanization. And it's happening too much. Why do I say so? In these conversations, I think we should take one thing, we should take away a lot of things from what Prof has said. Let other ethnic nations emulate the Yorubas. Igbos have been doing their own because even the United Nations, they have provided us the instrument for us to demand for our rights. And the Vienna Declaration directed us on how to demand for our rights when they say that human rights are interdependent, indivisible, and integrated, which means that you will use one right to get to the other rights. And the most crucial rights that we must try to understand today is the right to freedom of expression. I understand what Veteran was saying, and I want Prof to maybe next time to help us to understand this thing within the Nigeria context. If the Nigeria government continue to suppress the rights of freedom of expression, how can people now use, which instrument will people use now to express their demand for self-determination? Because the right to freedom of expression is the tools that each ethnic nationality is supposed to use to be demanding their right to peacefully, their right to freedom of their right to self-determination. But when that right to freedom of expression is suppressed, how can they exercise their right of self-determination? Because that was how the UN provided for it. So I want to leave all of us here to go and ponder it on how we are going to do it. Because even preamble number 2 of Universal Declaration of Human Rights puts the responsibility on the state actors to provide the enabling environment for human rights to flourish. And the interpretation given to that preamble is that when the state actors that have the obligation to create the enabling environment fail to provide the enabling environment, automatically it will set off the right to legitimate resistance by the custodian of human rights. So let us continue to engage and find a way where we are going to use the human rights instrument to demand for our right to self-determination. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Barrister Anyekwe. Prof, are you ready to give your closing remarks, sir?
Not much, except that in our own little ways, in the Yoruba, we are asking, we are demanding the right of self-expression. But maybe we will succeed more if we all join together to start by asking for the right of self-expression. Something is happening now in the Southwest. Police will arrest some young men ordinarily from being on the way to a meeting or going to, or arriving at a meeting and so on, and just disrupt their lives for nothing. They cannot win a case against them in court. Just disrupt their lives and take money from them and so on, in order to discourage the self-determination struggle. I don't know exactly what is happening in the Igbo part of Nigeria, but I know that there was a time when young men wanted to fight because they felt they were not being allowed the right of self-expression. No, there's no need to fight. If we were all together fighting for the right of self-expression, if the leaders of the Yoruba struggle were constantly aware and responsive to rob the people of any other part of Nigeria of their right of self-expression, if the leaders of the self-determination movement will be so aware too about what is happening in the Southwest, in the North, in the Joland, and so on, and we were all speaking up together against these things, our chances of success increase considerably. I'm saying that in the history of the world, people who join hands together tend to succeed more easily than those who choose to fight alone. I won't say more than that. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Professor Akintoye. Today has been quite a treat. People who join hands together tend to succeed better than those who fight alone. You've been watching Igbo Global Network and our conversation with Professor Emeritus Banji Akintoye, the leader of Ilana Omo Odua and the leader of the Yoruba Self-Determination Movement. My name is Tony Wisi, founder and chairman of Igbo Global Network. In the studio with me today has been our vice chair, Barrister Chukuma Anekwe, who is a scholar and and also Mazi Uche Mbakwe also has been in the studio with us.
Yes, sir.
As we come to the end of the broadcast, I want to direct you to our website, igboglobalnetwork.com, and also our social media handles, Facebook, Igbo Global Network, YouTube, Igbo Global Network, Twitter, Igbo Global Net. And we invite you to join us every Sunday at 8 o'clock as we bring you another broadcast, and definitely we will do a sequel to this and also a review to this. You can reach us on +1 202 787 8909 or on email, which is Igbo Global Network 47 at gmail.com. As is our custom, we also use this opportunity to publicly call for and demand for the unconditional and immediate release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, because he has done nothing wrong. He has been held captive by the Nigerian state for over 3 years when he has committed no crime and he has not been found guilty of any offense anywhere in the world. Please release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu to his family and his friends. Well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of tonight's broadcast. And finally, we did talk about Dr. Abati, so we offer him a right of response. So, Dr. Abati, if you're listening, you're welcome to come to our broadcast or invite us to yours will happily give you a right of response. But on that note, we'll say thank you so very much for being with us. Thanks also to Raphael, who has been manning our social media platform, YouTube and Twitter, and thanks to Ezija, also brilliant young leaders who has been managing our Facebook today. And until we come your way next time, my name is Tony Wincy, Igbo Global Network. Thank you and good night.